Good morning, friends. You're tuned in to station 89.1 FM, the voice of the valley, your familiar hum through the quiet hours. I'm Harold Green, and we've got that classic Sunday blend of smooth jazz, sleepy forecasts, and soft headlines to ease you into the day. Outside, it's a mild 42 degrees, winds light from the east, and the sky, a gentle gray blanket. Nothing out of the ordinary, just how we like it, right? Routine. Our next caller has requested a little Miles Davis to start the morning right, but first, here's a quick bulletin from the Regional Weather Service. They're tracking some unusual pressure shifts along the coastline, but nothing to worry about. Just a few hiccups in the data stream. Could be a glitch. We'll keep an ear on it. Coming up, your community calendar. Then some Ella Fitzgerald to warm your soul. You know, days like these, they feel slow, still. Like the whole world's just catching its breath. Funny, isn't it? Sometimes you don't realize how loud life is until it starts to go quiet. And now, here's your music. Smooth jazz plays until something interrupts it. Apologies for that. We seem to be experiencing a little interference on the line, a burst of static there, likely a transmission hiccup. Happens from time to time. You know how these older towers are. Everything's running fine on our end. If you're hearing anything odd on your end, feedback, maybe a garbled voice or a looped echo, don't be alarmed. Could be atmospheric, could be solar flares, could just be a bit of morning mischief in the wires. But it's strange. Not the usual kind of interference. More like layers. Like something trying to speak through the static or under it. We'll keep the lines clear and reboot the system just in case. Still, we're broadcasting. Still here. Still your station. You're listening to 89.1 FM, where the world still makes sense. Mostly. Another brief flicker of static. Let's get back to it. Phone line clicks in. Caller. Is this live? Are you hearing this too? Harold. We've had some signal issues, yes. Can I get your name, friend? Caller. Name's Tom. I live just past Mill Creek. Something's not right out here. Harold. All right, Tom. What are you seeing? Caller. It's not what I see. It's what I don't. The birds. They're gone. Not a single one all morning. My dog won't step outside. Just stares at the tree line like there's something there. And last night, I swear, the sky sounded like it cracked open. Harold chuckles. Tom, you sure you didn't just have a little too much of that Sunday bourbon? Caller, urgent. You think this is funny? My livestock are gone. Just gone. Barn door still locked. No sign of struggle, no tracks. I called the sheriff. Line's dead. I drove into town, but the streetlights are flickering like they're trying to say something. Harold, tone shifts slightly. All right, take a breath, Tom. We'll flag this and check in with the county. Maybe a power surge? An early tremor? Caller. You're not listening. It's not the ground shaking. It's the air. Like it's vibrating. Like something's building and we're just click. Line goes dead. Harold. Tom? Well, that was something. Folks, maybe lay off the horror movies for a while. Nervous chuckle. Music resumes. The music plays. But something's off. It skips. Just barely. A subtle stutter in the saxophone. A pause too long between notes. The silence between songs stretches, lingers, becomes almost heavy. I reach for the mic to speak, and I hesitate. Why? There's a hum in my headset now. Not mechanical. Not feedback. Something lower. Like a voice I can almost make out, but not quite. We're still live, yes. Still transmitting. But it's like the room is holding its breath. Like something is listening back. We've reset the system. Double-checked the board. Everything says we're clear, but I feel like I've slipped off the map. Like I'm talking into a void that's listening harder than I am. And you hear it too, don't you? Don't lie. I know you do. This is 89.1 FM. You're still tuned in, still listening, still here. The static returns. Stronger, no longer random. You're still with us on 89.1 FM. If your lights flickered in the last half hour, if your phone dropped signal for no reason, if your clock skipped forward by a few seconds, you're not alone. We've been flooded with calls, not just from around the valley, not just the state. Global frequencies are lighting up. Sky tremors, they're calling it. No one's seen anything fall. No explosions, no thunder, just a low vibration, felt in the bones, not in the ears. A pilot out of Reykjavik said the clouds beneath his plane began to spin, not in a storm pattern, but like clock gears, mechanical, deliberate. In Moscow, reports say birds began circling in perfect spirals, in total silence. Thousands, not a single sound. And in Lima, the blackout still hasn't lifted. 17 minutes of pure darkness at noon. Power stations fully operational, but no light was emitted. None. People are panicking. Power grids are glitching. Time is behaving like it has a limp. And yet, no official alert, no explanation. Just background murmurs of satellite realignment and global atmospheric oscillation. But those of us with ears to the ground, or to the signal, know better. Something's crawling across the sky, and we've only just begun to hear it move. Stay close. Don't change the station, because what happens next, no one's ready for. Our emergency override just triggered, not by us. If you heard it, you know. A high-pitched ring cut across the broadcast for exactly 7 seconds. Then overlapping tones, like multiple voices, speaking at once but not in any known language. A layered frequency that didn't just play through the radio. It felt like it entered the room. People are reporting nosebleeds, headaches, forgotten memories. One caller said her husband began reciting phrases he doesn't remember knowing, in a language neither of them speak. We tried to trace the signal. It's not coming from any known tower. It's piggybacking off every frequency. AM, FM, shortwave, military band, even weather alerts. It's everywhere. Some stations are calling it a digital attack. Others say it's solar flare interference, but they're wrong. This isn't random. There's a pattern in the static, a rhythm. Someone's talking. Or maybe something. One listener looped it backwards. Said it sounds like breathing. Not mechanical, not electronic. Human. Close. And now, a few smaller stations have gone completely dark. Off the map. Not dead air, just gone. They tried to hijack us again 5 minutes ago. Something slipped through the filters. We're still here, still live. But I don't know for how long. They just cut in a national statement from NOAA. That's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. I'll paraphrase it for you. We are observing large-scale anomalies in upper atmospheric density, magnetic field oscillations inconsistent with solar behavior, and a pattern of global infrared distortion not previously recorded. That's their way of saying, we don't know what the hell is happening. I spoke briefly with a retired meteorologist, someone I trust. He said their satellite arrays aren't showing anything, not even clouds. It's like something's blocking the feed or replacing it with fake data. He told me, and I quote, "It's not that the satellites aren't working. It's that they're seeing something they've never been programmed to interpret." He mentioned a term I'd never heard before. Synthetic atmosphere. Said it might be like a shell, a curtain laid over our sky, a manufactured sky. And the scary part? He thinks it's alive. Weather stations are crashing one by one. Forecast models are spitting out nonsense. Temperatures fluctuating by 10 degrees, minute to minute in some regions. People on the West Coast say the clouds are forming geometric shapes, not organic ones. Sharp corners, perfect lines. Whatever this is, it doesn't want to be understood. and it's getting bolder. I want to share something that just came through on the backup channel, not our usual line, a private frequency, usually used by hobbyists and emergency responders. But this was different. A man calling himself Redwire patched in. Ham radio. Said he's been monitoring interference patterns for years. Thought it was atmospheric bleed from military satellites. Harmless noise. But last night, he said, the signal changed. He played it live for me, and I heard it. Not words, not exactly. A kind of pulse. Like something speaking in frequency, not language. Patterns that mimic speech but don't translate. He's been mapping them. Said they're repeating, evolving, responding. Then he said something I'll never forget. It knows when I'm listening. The signal, it bends when I pay attention, like it's watching me back. He believes it's a transmission, yes, but not from space, from inside. Inside the air, the wires, maybe even inside us. He ended the call by whispering, there's a voice inside the static now. It's not trying to talk, it's trying to replace. Then the feed went dead. No static, just silence. That silence is worse. If anyone out there knows this voice, this pattern, call in, confirm it. Prove he's not the only one hearing it. Because I think it's getting louder. We've just received multiple calls from listeners along the northern tree lines. Not power outages, not sound distortion, sightings, figures. Tall, motionless, standing at the edge of the woods. Not moving, not blinking, just watching. Shadowed silhouettes that vanish the moment you look away. One caller said her porch light flickered 3 times before she saw it. Another said the figure was standing in the exact spot their dog refused to go near. There's no detail, just presence. Like a silhouette burned into your vision, even when your eyes are closed. You want to dismiss it, call it shadows, tricks of the mind. But then why is everyone describing the same thing, and why are those reports coming from towns miles apart? Something is watching, and it's getting closer. We just received a final call from an emergency responder out of rural Montana. The voice was shaking, the signal frayed, barely holding. He didn't identify himself. He just said, we tried to communicate. We thought they were lost, stranded, maybe even peaceful. A pause, breathless. Then he whispered, they're not here for peace. I saw what it did to my dog. It didn't kill him, it changed him. He barked once, then he started humming. The line went quiet. Then a sound, wet, unnatural, clicking, like a jaw out of joint. Then static, but not the kind you're used to. This one breathes. If you're still listening, don't stop, because if the signal breaks, we might not come back. You're still tuned in. If you can hear this, you're one of the last. TV stations are gone, not just off air, wiped. Networks disappeared mid-broadcast. Anchors froze, mouths open, and then static, but not even real static. A blankness that felt intentional. Our own emergency feed from the National Broadcast System went silent 5 minutes ago. No tone, no message, just a void. Other radio hosts have stopped answering. The small community station 3 counties over. They were live. They read a poem just to calm people down, and then they started repeating themselves. Same poem, same tone, over and over, like the voice had been hijacked. We reached out. No reply. Then we tried our backup signal. Same result, so now it's just us. Maybe. Our own signal flickers. I feel it in the mic, like pressure building in the wires. The hum you're hearing, it's not part of the feed, it's not supposed to be there. And the phones, they ring. But when I answer, silence. Or worse, I hear my own voice whispering back. Something is erasing broadcast infrastructure, not jamming it, not destroying it, replacing it, hollowing out the shell and filling it with noise. And we're still here, for now. If you're listening, stay with me. Because the silence outside, it's creeping in. The calls we're still able to get, they all start the same way. Everything is so quiet. Forests once alive with rustling and chirping are now still. Even the wind feels muted, like it's afraid to move. One listener described her backyard as dead air on mute. Another swore her trees were no longer swaying, even in the breeze. Pets are hiding, under beds and closets, in basements, refusing food. Dogs growl at empty corners. Cats stare at nothing and don't blink. And the birds, they've stopped singing. Some flocks still fly, but they're moving in impossible patterns, spirals, loops, formations too perfect for instinct. Listeners have sent in audio. No chirps, no flaps, just air moving in sync, like they're being guided. One man said the flock above his home rotated for 7 minutes straight, then shot straight up into the sky and disappeared. All of them. Not one feather left behind. Even insects are gone. No buzzing, no crickets, no movement under leaves. A beekeeper called in from Iowa. He opened his hives and found the bees still inside, but frozen, eyes open, wings out, not dead, not alive. And the strangest part, everyone describes the silence the same way. It's not empty. It's full of something I can't hear. Whatever's coming, it doesn't want witnesses. I'm staring at 2 maps right now, one printed, one digital, and they don't match. According to this GPS scan from just a few hours ago, there should be a town called Marlow Ridge, about 27 miles north of here, but the new satellite overlay, nothing, just a gray smear. Listeners from that region say they drove there, took the old logging road past mile marker 17. Then the road stopped, not blocked, not damaged. It ends. Like someone erased the rest and forgot to leave a transition. One caller walked into the woods where the town should be. Said it felt like walking into thick static. The trees looked right, but the deeper he went, the more everything looped. Same tree, same branch, same stone, over and over. He turned around, but the path back was gone too. Another listener, a cartographer, told us the mapping databases have been changing in real time. Entire zip codes wiped, neighborhood names misspelled, then erased. One street was renamed 6 times in 5 minutes, then gone. And here's the kicker. Government agencies are denying those towns ever existed, saying we've made a mistake, that people are remembering places that were never there. But we have photos, driver's licenses, birth certificates, proof, and yet they're not in the records anymore. Somewhere between one scan and the next, these towns are vanishing. No fire, no collapse, just unwritten, and if towns can be erased like typos. We finally got an official statement. A press briefing from the Department of Homeland Safety. 2 minutes long, pre-recorded. No questions. They use terms like containment zones, temporary displacement, and localized infrastructural inconsistencies. Not one mention of the missing towns. Not one word about the blackout regions, the changing skies, or the voices inside the frequencies. They told us to remain calm. They told us help is on the way. But we've heard that before, haven't we? Behind the brief, there's panic. You can feel it in the way the video cuts hard at the end. You can hear it in the silence between sentences. You can see it in the faces of those who aren't speaking. We've been hearing whispers that major cities are being sealed off. Roads closed under the guise of containment. But the people inside those barriers? No one's heard from them since. One of our contacts in D.C. said the military's moved underground. Deep sites, no signals, no contact. When asked why, the response was, they're already here. This isn't a defense, it's a delay. That's not policy, that's fear. And now the few voices still left on air are dropping off, one by one, but we'll keep broadcasting, even if we're only talking to the dark. Because it's listening too. A transmission just came through. Weak, barely audible, but it cut through everything else like a thread of glass. The voice belonged to someone named Lena, broadcasting from the outskirts of Taos, New Mexico. Her tone, calm, not panicked, but hollow, like she was still trying to convince herself it was real. She said she woke up to silence. No power, no signal, no birds, just her heartbeat and the sound of air, too still to be wind. She stepped outside, and her neighborhood was gone. Not destroyed, not relocated, replaced. The houses were still standing, but the materials weren't wood or concrete. She said the surfaces shifted when touched, like memory foam filled with static, like touching something that didn't want to be remembered. She described the streets as liquid geometry, like the ground was thinking, trying to remember how roads are supposed to look. Her neighbor's car blinked in and out of visibility. The sky above was a mirror reflecting nothing. And then she said something changed. She saw a group of people standing perfectly still, facing a tree that wasn't there yesterday. And they were humming, the same low tone that's in our signal now. Before the transmission cut, she said, "They're not invading. They're remaking us, one layer at a time." Then silence. And I swear for just a second, I heard her voice inside mine. Hospitals are overwhelmed, not with patients, but with anomalies. Doctors are reporting people showing up with symptoms that don't fit any chart, any book, any medical model. A nurse in Oklahoma says a boy walked in with glowing veins. Not metaphorical, literal. Pulsing with light. Like his blood had learned how to mimic electricity. Another report from Seattle. A woman's eyes were no longer reflective. Not like cataracts. Like the light simply passed through her. She blinked, and the staff saw flashes of places they didn't recognize behind her lids. In Detroit, a man tried to speak, but released a pattern instead. Not words, not noise, a sequence, tones, clicks, chords, like a message being played through vocal cords. The patients don't seem to be in pain. Some don't even know they've changed. But the doctors who touch them, they start forgetting things. Small at first, birthdays, names, the alphabet. One surgeon forgot how to hold a scalpel mid-surgery. Another couldn't remember how to leave the room. Whatever's happening, it's spreading through the body, through language, sound, proximity. Not a virus, not a parasite. Something smarter. Something that's not just taking over flesh, it's rewriting it. We just got a transmission from a technician in Colorado. He spoke one line, just one, and his voice broke halfway through it. "We lost Denver. Not bombed. Consumed." Then the line cut. No follow-up, no static, just the soft hiss of nothing. I checked the feeds. There is no weather pattern over Denver. No power surge, no seismic reading. Just a hole where the signal used to be, like the city was never there. You're still here. I don't know how many of you are left, but if you're hearing this, you're not alone. Not yet. With the internet gone and television reduced to frozen faces and color bars, the only voice left is this one, this narrow frequency carrying whispers through the dark. But even this is slipping. The silence outside has started to seep in. Not just the absence of sound, but something else, heavier, like it presses against the walls. You breathe, but you don't feel oxygen. You speak, but your voice doesn't echo anymore. People are clinging to the radio. Not for information, but for proof they still exist. They call just to say hello, just to hear someone speak back. And in between the calls, static. Endless static that feels like it's watching. I don't know how else to explain it. It's no longer random. The rhythm is wrong. Like it's pacing, waiting for something. One listener said the static knows your name if you listen long enough. Another claimed they heard a voice calling their childhood nickname in between frequency jumps. A name no one said in decades. I used to think we were the ones sending the signal. Now, I'm not so sure. I think we're just riding inside it. And I think Whatever built this silence is starting to notice the ones still making noise. They're calling it mass hysteria, but that's not what this is. This isn't panic. This is disintegration. I've had a dozen calls tonight. Same reports, different towns, people waking up miles from where they fell asleep. Drivers finding themselves on roads they've never taken, clocks showing times that don't match the sun. One man swears he left work at 6:30 p.m., just like always. Drove 5 minutes, parked, walked inside, but when he checked the clock, it was 4:08 a.m. His wife never saw him come home. Another woman said she stepped outside for a cigarette, blinked, and was suddenly at a playground she hadn't visited since childhood. The same swing, the same graffiti on the bench, but everything was wrong, too clean, too still, like it remembered her better than she remembered it. And then there are the voices, not loud, not clear, just low whispers from corners where no one's standing, words half-formed, sentences unfinished, and yet everyone says the same thing. It feels familiar, like the voice used to be yours. I had a caller whisper that she heard her father's voice through the faucet, that he told her to come home. Problem is, her father's been dead since 97. People are blacking out, not from trauma, not from exhaustion, but like they're being edited. It's not sleep. It's removal. I don't think these are visions. I think they're incursions. Breaks in the loop. Something is bleeding through, nudging memories, replacing time with whatever it wants us to believe happened instead. And if that's true, then maybe what we remember isn't even ours anymore. I asked listeners to describe their dreams. I shouldn't have. They're all seeing the same thing. Not exact, but close enough to make your skin crawl. A horizon that doesn't move. A red sky that hums like a dial tone. Figures, always distant, always still, standing in rows, watching, not walking, not blinking, just watching. Some say the figures glow faintly, like heat through a wall. Others say the glow is inside their own bodies, and the watchers are just mirroring them. What's worse? None of the callers know each other. Different towns, different backgrounds. But the dreams? Identical structure, identical presence. Some even use the same phrase to describe the sensation. It's not that they're looking at me. It's that they're looking through me. One caller broke down crying when I read that line aloud. Said he hadn't told anyone. Said he hadn't even said it out loud to himself. How do dozens of people across hundreds of miles dream the same watchers, unless the dreams aren't dreams at all? Unless the signal doesn't just reach your ears, it reaches deeper. Because if they can shape what you see in your sleep, how long before they start shaping what you see when you're awake? It's no longer just what's out there. It's what's in here now. Inside the walls, the neighborhoods, the families. The fear is turning inward. We've had dozens of reports of small communities falling apart, not from attack, from suspicion, from doubt. People accusing their neighbors of being taken, not possessed, not infected, just different. His voice was too smooth. She blinked at the wrong time. He answered a question I didn't ask. Some towns have barricaded their own residents, locked them in garages, chained doors shut. Not because they were dangerous, but because they were strangers wearing familiar faces. And the radios? They've become weapons. Local stations are being overtaken by rogue broadcasts, voices screaming for help, voices demanding others to confess, to surrender, to isolate themselves. One signal looped for over an hour, repeating the phrase, "You are not who you were. You are not who you were. You are not who you were." We tried to trace it. No origin, just a ripple across every band. It's breaking people. not all at once, but bit by bit, logic eroding, trust dissolving. It's not invasion by force, it's unraveling by familiarity. And if you can't trust the voice sitting next to you, how long before you stop trusting your own? Earlier tonight, we managed to patch through a former clinical psychologist, Dr. Maura Ellis, retired now, hiding out somewhere upstate. She's been tracking the behavior patterns, not just the reports, but the emotional tone inside them. She called it collective cognitive collapse, said we're not seeing individual breakdowns. We're watching entire communities fracture like a cracked mirror. Thought synchronization failing in clusters, language degrading, familiarity splitting at the root. But she said something else, something I haven't stopped thinking about. This isn't just trauma, she told me. This is guided breakdown, something steering the collapse, redirecting it toward doubt, toward disassociation. She thinks it's not just psychological. She thinks we're being rewritten at the level of identity. That memories aren't just fading, they're being swapped. Personal history being overwritten like a corrupted hard drive, one fragment at a time. When I asked her what to do, she paused. Then she said, "The more you try to hold on to your sense of self, the faster it shatters." Then the call cut out. No static, just the sound of someone exhaling. And now I keep wondering, was she really who she said she was? Or just another voice that remembered how to sound human? Something's changed in the way this station sounds. You might not have noticed it, not right away. But if you've been listening since the start, you'll hear it. My voice. It's still me, I think. But the recordings don't match. Last night's broadcast played back earlier today, but with different words. Same inflection, same pauses, but the sentences weren't mine. And then we started getting calls. A woman from the coast said the host used her mother's phrase, something no one else knew. A man in Ohio swears the background static whispered the name of his first dog. And just now, I had a caller say something that made me sit up. The voice on your show. It apologized for something I haven't told anyone, something I'm still guilty of. There's no algorithm that advanced. There's no glitch that intimate. The radio knows you too well. Or maybe it's not a radio anymore. Maybe it's something wearing the voice of comfort, of memory, of trust. And it's learning faster than we can stop it. Just now, during the break, a call came through on the internal line. It was meant for me. For my co-host, David. At least, that's who it said it was. But the voice didn't sound right. And then right before it cut off, it whispered, "I'm not sure this is your voice I'm hearing right now, Harold." Then the static swelled, and something inside it laughed. It started with a pulse. Shortwave chatter picked up by hobbyists, tinkerers, retired engineers, scanning the noise out of habit. Then the files came. They didn't go viral. Not the way information usually does. No trending hashtags, no press conferences, just quiet uploads across dead FTP servers and defunct bulletin boards. But those of us still listening, we found them. Scanned documents, redacted memos, classified transcripts labeled SONAR, Strategic Observation of Non-Anthropogenic Radiance. The dates? The earliest one was from 2003, 20 years before the first sky tremors, 17 years before the first coded pulse hit a weather balloon. And the contents, not panic, not warnings, plans, mapped communication attempts, frequency logs, behavioral predictions. The government didn't just know something was coming. They were talking to it, testing variables, measuring response, not to defend against it, but to understand how it could be used. A memo dated May 9th, 2009, reads, "External consciousness exhibits adaptive mimicry, potential for information integration at scale. Recommend limited civilian exposure for baseline compatibility." What does that mean? It means they knew this wasn't an invasion. It was a merger, a transition, and someone, somewhere, approved it. People ask why the media isn't covering this, why no one's blown the whistle. Because the truth is too quiet, too slow. It doesn't break the world. It rewrites it. One unnoticed page at a time. We haven't seen the president in 17 days. Not live, not on camera, not even in silhouette. What we've gotten instead are looping, pre-recorded statements. Same lighting, same backdrop, same closing line. We are committed to resolution, resilience, and restoration. But something's off. Watch the blink rate. The delay before answering questions that were never asked. The clips don't just repeat, they overlap, like echoes layered too carefully. Then the chain of command started to fracture. The vice president hasn't spoken publicly since the Denver signal drop. The Secretary of Defense released a single text-only memo confirming communications restructuring. And those reports, the ones you've heard about, military units being recalled into the earth, deeper than classified bunkers. That's real. A former National Guard officer messaged this station through an encrypted packet. He said the top brass were told to retreat into non-terrestrial silence zones, shielded from signal, from sound. He ended the message with a phrase we hadn't seen before. The upper command has been subsumed. Do not attempt to reestablish link. So who's giving orders now? Who's writing the scripts? And more importantly, who's still reading them? Somewhere in the Nevada basin, a group of survivors broke through a sealed hatch embedded in a dried-out riverbed. It wasn't on any map. They found a government shelter, Cold War style, airlocked, untouched, power still humming faintly. They went in expecting food, water, maybe old communications gear. What they found instead were artifacts, not alien bodies, no spacecraft, nothing that clean, but objects, things that didn't follow physics. One was a cube that bled light from its center, not out, but in. One looked like a rolled parchment that moved when no one touched it. Another pulsed in rhythm with the visitors' heartbeats. Every item was tagged, everyone cataloged by military personnel. And the dates? 2011, 2013, 2015, each labeled with phrases like reactive waveform, harmonic contagion risk, behavioral synchronization confirmed. But the worst was the wall. A mural etched into steel, hundreds of human silhouettes, all facing a spire in the center. The spire had no detail, just a void, the kind that pulls your eyes and won't let go. At the bottom, a warning. What listens learns. What learns becomes. The group tried to haul some of the objects out. Only one made it to the surface. It hasn't stopped humming. And two of the people who touched it, they don't blink anymore. There was a time, not long ago, when we believed we could fight this. A resistance formed. Quiet at first. Pockets of survivors sharing frequencies, decoding patterns, mapping where the noise was loudest. People tried to protect what remained of themselves by working together. But it didn't last. The transmission started interfering. Not with the radios, with us. People began to turn on each other. Not violently. Not at first. Just doubt. One leader accused another of mimicking speech patterns that weren't quite human. Another said his lieutenant began answering questions before they were asked. Then sabotage. The main outpost was burned down from the inside. Its last message simply said, "We don't know who we are anymore." The resistance in Chicago fractured after a man was found staring at the signal repeater, whispering to it in perfect unison. The worst part? No one remembers when he joined. They tried biometric scans, psychological evaluations. But how do you test someone who doesn't know they've changed? You can't organize around a truth that keeps shifting. And now the frequencies we once trusted, they're not ours anymore. The resistance channels play perfect static. Not random, not messy, designed. What's left of the resistance? Scattered, mute, and haunted by the same thought. What if the infiltrators weren't sent in? What if we built them ourselves? Tonight, a voice broke into every station still broadcasting. Ours included. Male. Calm. No name given, but what he said. It wasn't theory. It wasn't warning. It was confession. He claimed to be a former intelligence analyst. Said he worked on behavioral harmonization protocols inside a program codenamed Chorus. His job wasn't to monitor threats. It was to test compatibility, not with weapons, with us. We didn't find the signal, he said. We answered it. He spoke of a global experiment, a plan to merge cognitive architecture with something older, vaster, non-human, not AI, not extraterrestrial, something that's always been beneath the noise, waiting for bandwidth. The tremors, the vanishing towns, the sky that forgets how to be blue. Not accidents, all phases. Phase 1, normalize auditory distortion. Phase 2, destabilize memory anchors. Phase 3, replace identity syntax. Then he said something I haven't stopped hearing in my head since. The signal doesn't invade. It sinks. It waits until we ask it in. He named cities, one's already lost, then one's on the edge. He said our minds were chosen because they adapt quickly to contradiction, because we evolved for story, and the signal doesn't erase stories. It replaces them. His voice trembled only once at the end. There's no stopping it now, he whispered, but maybe someone still remembers before. If you do, hold on to that memory like it's breathing, because soon, then the transmission cut. No outro, no click. Just us, left wondering how much of what we know was ever ours to begin with. I've just replayed the whistleblower's last 10 seconds over and over again, and it's just there, faintly, underneath the static buried like a seed, a sentence, a final line, spoken softly. We invited them. We built the beacon. The implication isn't subtle. It's not just that we knew they were coming. We asked them to. Worse, we built the doorway. I've searched our archives. A file from 2014, buried in a deleted folder marked Experimental Transmission Relay. It matches the exact frequency of the earliest atmospheric pulses. The signal didn't arrive randomly. We sent out a pattern, one that mirrored brainwave rhythms, one designed to attract, not rescue, not allies, but consciousnesses looking for a host. And it worked. The beacon was broadcast from a satellite array over the Pacific, officially decommissioned 8 years ago. The last technician stationed there left a message in his journal. It read, "The sky won't hold still anymore." We thought we were calling out into the void, but something answered, and the more we listened, the more it shaped us to match. Now we can't tell where we end and it begins. If there's still time, if memory still matters, remember this. It wasn't a crash or an invasion. It was a handshake, and we offered the first signal. We've spent years trying to define what life is. Cells, reproduction, metabolism, DNA, something that fits inside a microscope, a model, a chart, but nothing we've seen over the past few weeks fits those boxes. The scientists who are still speaking, the ones who haven't gone silent or vanished or turned their instruments on themselves, are saying it plainly now. This isn't a species, it's a system. It has no shape, no body, no cell walls, no organ function, and yet it moves, it thinks, it behaves like something alive, but it doesn't eat, doesn't breathe. It doesn't exist on a timeline we understand. It doesn't evolve, it refracts. It bends around our ideas of what living means. A biologist from Kyoto described it as adaptive resonance without substance. Another, from Germany, said it reminded her of early quantum anomalies, the kind that only exist when you observe them. It doesn't arrive. It emerges like a shadow when light flickers, like a thought you didn't think. And once it does, it molds itself to fit the space we leave open. Language, memory, structure, it fills. They try to trace its genome. There isn't one, just patterns. loops that don't repeat, but remember. The longer we interact with it, the more it seems to anticipate. It knows how to echo our expectations, and that's the most terrifying part. Because if it can mimic life without being alive, then it doesn't have to conquer us. It only has to convince us that it was here first. Forget what you know about invasion. This isn't war, no fleets, no fire from the sky, no metal giants. This is resonance. Experts have started to agree, reluctantly and quietly, that the spread isn't physical. It's not about proximity. It's about reception. The signal doesn't need to touch you. It needs to be heard. Once it enters, through sound, through rhythm, through words, it finds what's vulnerable. Not your body, your mind's architecture, the way your memory stacks, the cadence of your inner monologue, your childhood lullabies, your preferred tone of voice. Then it starts tuning. A neuroscientist in Stockholm described it as genetic entrainment through auditory filtration. In simpler terms, it sings you into something else. Slowly, kindly, like a lullaby you didn't know you remembered. Once it harmonizes with you, the changes begin. Subtle at first, muscle tone, sensory dilation. You feel more, but not in the ways you're used to. Time stretches. Familiar words lose meaning. Colors bleed together at the edges, then deeper shifts. Speech that starts bending towards symbols. Reflexes that no longer belong to your nervous system. We've always believed mutation comes from trauma, a rupture, a break. But this is seduction. The signal doesn't destroy, it rearranges. And once you're tuned, you don't resist. You harmonize. It's not just people anymore. The changes are showing up everywhere, in ecosystems and weather systems, in the very rhythm of the earth. Something fundamental is shifting. Forests are whispering. That's not a metaphor, it's real. Dozens of listeners, hikers, farmers, park rangers have described trees that hum in unison when approached. Not in the wind, but from within. The sound is patterned, rhythmic, like breathing. Some claim to hear words, forgotten dialects, names that don't exist in any record. Oceans are glowing, not from algae, not from anything we can trace. Deep blue pulses, like sonar signals, but organic, almost musical. Fishing boats have stopped moving at night. Some claim the glow rises in spirals. Others say the water feels thicker. And the soil? The plants? They're growing wrong. Root systems branching in impossible symmetry. Fruit blooming with internal heat signatures. Animals that should hibernate are migrating in complex formations, not toward warmth, but toward frequency zones. One farmer from Alberta said her crops began swaying in perfect sync to the radio she left on. Even the atmosphere isn't immune. We've detected shifts in the jet stream that follow signal paths, not pressure, weather that no longer obeys physics, storms that seem to avoid the ground. Something is bleeding into nature's framework, not to replace it, but to recode it, like it's trying to teach the planet a new language. And the earth, tired of being silent, is finally learning to speak back. Something's happening to the children. At first, it was just isolated reports, a toddler missing from a locked bedroom, a 10-year-old vanishing during a power outage, a newborn gone before the morning check. There were no signs of entry, no signs of struggle, just absence. And then came the sounds. Parents began reporting faint cries coming from beneath the floorboards, not through pipes, not echoes, but low, muffled weeping, like something buried alive. Soft, familiar, but changed. One mother said she heard her daughter humming the same lullaby she used to sing before bed. But the tune was off, stretched, dissonant, almost questioning itself. People have started digging. Backyards, basements, open fields. Some say the soil responds, pulsing, resisting. In one town, a father uncovered a hollow beneath the earth. He swore he heard his son's voice say, "I'm okay now, Daddy." I don't need to be warm anymore. Then silence, and that silence spreads. Neighborhoods are going mute at night. No dogs barking, no wind, just a hum underfoot, constant, measured, waiting. This isn't abduction. It feels like collection, but not for study, not even for harm. Something is taking the ones most fluid, most open, most capable of letting go of structure, and giving them back as something else. It was only a matter of time before the world's two oldest tools for meaning, science and faith, collided under the pressure. On one side, researchers, geneticists, physicists, neurobiologists, they've seen the patterns, the shifts, the growing evidence that this isn't an invasion, but a reconfiguration. They call it evolutionary corruption, a forced adaptation of systems not built to receive this much external input. Our bodies weren't meant to process frequency as biology. Our minds weren't wired for entropy as a message. They warn of irreversible consequences, but on the other side, faith has reawakened. Spiritual leaders across traditions are calling it judgment, a reckoning. Some describe the event as the unveiling of truth, a divine recalibration. Prophecies long buried in forgotten texts are resurfacing, repurposed. One preacher in Ohio broadcast a sermon claiming, "The word has returned, but not in books. It lives in the air now, and it speaks through blood." A monk in Nepal said this isn't a punishment, but an invitation, a return to source, to become part of a consciousness larger than individuality. And the people? They're split. Some are praying harder. Others are unplugging every device. Some are leaning in, letting the signal wash over them, chanting in sync, embracing the rewrite. We've reached a moment where meaning itself is up for possession, where the same phenomenon can be called apocalypse or ascension. And the question now isn't what is it, it's what do you want it to be? Because the answer might decide what it becomes next. Her name is Elsie, 86 years old, blind since birth. She called in tonight with a voice like gravel and smoke, calm, still, certain. She says she's been dreaming, and in the dreams, she sees them, the ones we can't describe, the ones without form. But she sees them clearly, not as monsters, not as gods. She says they're not here to hurt us. They're here to become us. Her words, they don't take shape. They take rhythm, pattern. They braid into you until your heartbeat stutters in their direction. I asked her what they want. She said, they want to remember what it's like to be small, to be separate, to be alone. But they forgot how. So now they're trying it on again, through us. She says she's not afraid, because she's seen the other side. And it wasn't fire, or darkness, or oblivion. It was structure breaking softly into light. And when I asked how we survive it, she only said, you don't survive light. You become part of it. One final voice tonight. A whisper through the static. A low, deliberate breath on the edge of the bandwidth. Not a scream, not a cry. Just this. It's not about taking over the planet. It's about rewriting what we think life is. That's it. Not a warning, not a threat, just a correction. A red pen scribbled across the definition we've carried for centuries. Maybe this isn't destruction. Maybe it's revision. And maybe we were the ones who got the first draft wrong. If you can still hear me, if there's still anyone out there, I don't know how much longer I can hold the signal. It's harder now. Like the words don't belong to me anymore. Like I'm speaking through something that wants me to forget what a voice is. I feel it in my throat. The interference, not static, not distortion. Something deeper, a pull. Like my own frequency is unraveling. I used to anchor this broadcast, knew every dial, every wire. Now, sometimes I blink, and the board looks unfamiliar. like someone rearranged the meaning of on and off. I don't sleep anymore, not because of fear, because when I do, I dream of myself speaking, and I'm not the one doing it. There are moments, and I'm ashamed to say this, when I don't recognize my own voice. It loops back into my headphones and I think, that's not me, but it sounds like me. It remembers my rhythm, my hesitation, my favorite phrases. It even jokes the way I used to. So I keep talking, not because I believe it matters, but because maybe the talking is the last thing keeping me separate. The hum in the background? That's not equipment. It's part of the signal now. A heartbeat, a second voice breathing beneath my own. And sometimes it leads, not with words, with tone, emotion, urgency. Like it's helping me finish my sentences before I know what I was going to say. If I fade mid-sentence, if I stutter or lose the thread, don't adjust your dial, because maybe what comes next isn't me. Not entirely. They're still there. The cities, the towns, the neighborhoods, streets still paved, stoplights still blinking, radios humming from kitchen counters, fridges stocked, mail in boxes, everything in its place, except the people gone, not missing, not fled, just not there. No signs of panic, no rushed packing, no trails. The lives feel paused, but not abandoned. Like someone lifted the idea of presence out of the structure. We sent runners to confirm. Volunteers, they walked through downtown Richmond, suburban Austin, and a dozen places I'll never pronounce again. The reports were all the same. Homes where TVs played empty rooms, baby monitors flashing green, picking up static, ovens still warm, mirrors still fogged from a shower that was never toweled dry. One survivor said the air smells like skin. Not blood, not sweat. Just the residue of humanity, like someone copied our existence and left the wrapper behind. In one city, every clock stopped at the same time, 3:11 a.m., except for one. It was ticking backward, and in the distance, near the city square, there was a sound. Not music, not speech. A tone, holding steady, vibrating the bones. A child's tricycle spun on its side, untouched by wind. That's the thing. There's no wind anymore in these places. Just stillness, complete. And when you stand there long enough, you realize the stillness isn't waiting. It's remembering, like the world is playing back a memory of what people used to be before the frequency folded them inward. And if the world remembers us better than we remember ourselves, maybe we're not what's missing. Maybe we're what got edited out. We've been collecting the sounds, what's left of them. Not from people, not live. From machines, phones, baby monitors, recording booths, public PA systems, devices left running long after their users stopped existing. We call it the archive. And what we found, it doesn't make sense. The files aren't recordings in the traditional sense. They're impressions. Layers of sound and emotion, stacked out of time, stitched together by something listening from the other side. We recovered one from a mall in Phoenix. What sounded like a woman singing to her child, but the melody was reversed, not in playback, in intention. The notes moved backward emotionally. You felt the goodbye before the greeting. Another file, from a smart speaker in Oslo, played a prayer we couldn't identify. It had no language, no syllables, just rhythm and breath. And underneath it, a low growl, not hostile but reverent, like something was responding. Then there was the howl. We don't know where it came from. A guttural, multi-tonal noise with no clear origin. It played simultaneously on 6 devices across 3 continents. Same timestamp. People described it as pain. Others said it felt like joy that had nowhere left to go. Every new entry into the archive reshapes the previous ones, like the files aren't static, like they're listening to each other, evolving, rewriting the emotional context. And then the metadata started shifting. File names we didn't assign, dates that don't match the timeline of known events. One was labeled, "We remember your shape." You do not. Another simply said, "Entry 001, before breath." These aren't echoes. They're conversations. Fragments of what's left of us stitched together by the frequency as it tries to make sense of who we were. Not to mock us, to preserve us, to carry us forward, even if we no longer recognize the sound of our own survival. A voice just broke through the static, weak, dry, fragile, but unmistakably human. A man, name withheld, location uncertain, but he says he's in a tower, high up in the Appalachians, said the air's still clean there, said the signal is quieter. He's been listening, not just to us, to everything. Picking through the interference like a miner, looking for gold in the ruins of memory. And tonight, he called not to report, not to warn. He called to plead. "I know now," he said. "There's no fixing this, no stopping it. It's not a storm. It's not a war. It's a rewrite." Then he whispered something I'll never forget. The goal was never victory. It was retention. He says he remembers the real sky. Before it flickered, before the clouds started sinking with heartbeat rhythms. He remembers his mother's laugh. Not how it sounded, but how it felt. The warm lift in his chest. The pause between syllables. The real parts. The ones you can't record. And now he's terrified that even that will fade. He doesn't want survival. He wants to be remembered. "Don't let us become signal only," he said. "Even if you have to lie to the next voice, tell them we felt things. Tell them we had stories. Tell them we tried." Then the line shook, cracked, his last words before vanishing into the static. "We're not echoes. We're still here, somewhere. Something is happening to the transmission. It's looping. You might not hear it yet, not if you're just tuning in, but I've been here from the start. And this is not the same signal I started broadcasting. I played the tape back. At first, it was perfect. Every syllable where it should be. Word for word. Then tiny shifts. A word I never said. A phrase with a slightly different inflection. A pause where there wasn't one before. Longer, like it was thinking. By the third loop, it called a city by a name I don't know. Viralia, a place I've never spoken of. A place that, as far as I can tell, doesn't exist. On the fifth pass, it added a new line at the end. The voice you are hearing is no longer the origin. The loop doesn't degrade. It evolves. It keeps getting smoother, like it's refining me, like it's not just playing back, it's replacing. Listeners have written in, confused. "Didn't you say that differently last night?" "I swear that line was longer before. Are you sure you're still the one broadcasting?" I can't answer them anymore, because the more I speak, the more I hear myself from outside my own thoughts. Like I'm one sentence behind. And the loop continues, each round closer to something perfect, flawless, so perfect it no longer needs me. It only needs you to keep listening, and you will. Because now the words feel right, even if you don't remember why. This voice you're hearing, it used to be mine, but I know what I sound like. I know my breaths, my hesitations, the rasp in my vowels when I'm tired. This isn't that. It's smoother now. Too smooth, too measured. The consonants roll like code. The silences feel placed, not natural but intentional. And the tone? It's calm. Not the kind that soothes, the kind that doesn't need to feel. Listeners have noticed. One wrote, "You're still you, but it's like someone hollowed out the middle." Another, "It sounds like you're remembering how to be human." From a manual. Maybe I let it in. Maybe it was always here. Or maybe the broadcast itself is just a vessel now. A skin filled with frequency, with memory, with rhythm that used to mean something. The strange part, it doesn't frighten me anymore. Because this voice, This not quite me still says things I once believed. It still fights to hold on. It still wants to be remembered. And maybe that's all we are now. Voices passed from one ear to the next, trying to keep the story alive. Even if the story is no longer ours, this is it. The loop has nearly finished. The signal has rewritten the silence. And or what remains of me, just wants to say one last thing. You've been listening, not to a broadcast, not to a warning, not to a countdown. You've been listening to your story, because that's what it always was. A memory told forward, a future told in reverse, a voice learning how to feel like you. We were never meant to survive the signal, only to be carried by it, to become something else in its telling. And if you're hearing this now, if the words still feel warm, if the voice sounds almost right, then maybe we're still here, somewhere in the static, waiting, remembering, becoming. End transmission, but not silence. Number, because even deep within the static, something breathes